Well, interestingly, last year's conference, Reinvest conference, was focused on, the investors were focused on interest rates, inflation, war, and the impact on real estate. This year, the feedback I had was there were a shorter list of worries, and actually not necessarily interest rates and inflation. What investors seem to be most concerned about is valuations. So the pace at which valuations have adjusted around the world. So some markets such as UK that have repriced very quickly, other markets that are potentially have further to go. So that was one of the key points. I would say the other point, which is more long-term in nature, would be the cost of decarbonising assets and the challenge for investors to decarbonise to reach their ambitions of net zero, and the impact that would have on returns for their clients and investors, and actually the underlying risk of the assets.
So what we see that are the very interesting trends at the moment. Logistics is still there. Investors are really looking forward to invest more into the logistics, and that makes a lot of sense as there is still increase of the e-commerce and also nearshoring because of the geopolitical situations. So that companies and manufacturers, they want to have more storage of the spare parts and everything closer to home as there's so much uncertainty. So we think that interest rates will be cut, maybe Fed will start that and then ECB will follow, but maybe 3 times this year. So, and that should then of course easing the investors' appetite, but there's still some mileage to go before we are there.
What we're doing right now is really adapting to the market cycle, which is really, we understand that offices is still interesting, very niche in centers of the cities with very good services, but we found that, for example, in residential, in build to rent, student housing, those type of sectors also need lack of supply and good supply as well. So this is also why we are tackling these sectors as well. And recently we also bought a company called Costar, that is the French leader in terms of marketplace for self-storage, because we found the self-storage sector is right now still very granular in Europe, continental Europe, and has a lot to do in terms of how you can consolidate the sector, how you can improve the supply, etc.
Globally, ICAD's portfolio is resilient with more than 85% of our office assets that are, in our view, fit for the future in terms of the needs of our customers. So we are talking here about centrality, transportation hub, definitely, ESG standards in terms of building and the way we operate the building, but also the ability we have to answer to our client needs in terms of flexibility, services, and so. And there's also a bucket of assets that, in our view, in the midterm, will need to be repositioned, roughly 15% of the portfolio. Fortunately, we have also a toolbox at ICAD, our property development teams, that allow us to transform those assets into schools, to hotels, into residential lots. So,
I think in terms of pricing, we've seen, of course, the market drop over the past 18 months. So this gives opportunities, and this is also, and to your question earlier, how and why we have this kind of capital deployment function, which is now standing alone, because we want our people to be able to focus solely on all the opportunities and grab all the maybe low-hanging fruits, but also all the opportunity to expand our portfolio. We are buyers. We want to expand. We see more and more barriers. We see more and more regulation. We see more and more environmental constraints. As a consequence, we face more and more challenging to deploy new buildings, but it's also an opportunity to really transition to new carbon neutral, carbon zero buildings, and to innovate and transform our portfolio to prepare for the future.
Well, what we've said is continued rapid growth. Last year we signed more than 850 new buildings. This year we expect to do at least that. We're growing all over the world. I mean, a lot of it in the United States and Canada, but all over the world we're growing. We're adding some new countries. We've just added Montenegro, very small country, but it's still another country. And we continue to grow the network. This is a platform play. This is about network. This is about coverage. It's not about real estate. It's about convenience for people, about where they want to work and what they want to do. So lots more growth, and we hope another year of record revenues.